Welcome on in, ladies and gentlemen, to episode number 14 of Let's Go Racing with David Starr. Tyler Jones here with you. So glad to have you with us. Coming up on today's show, going to be joined by NASCAR team owner and former driver Jimmy Means is set to stop by. We'll talk to Jimmy about his career, both as an owner and a driver and an owner-driver, and find out all the insights from Jimmy and what he's up to nowadays with his team in the Xfinity Series. All that and more coming up in just a bit. David Starr joins us as always. David, let's jump right to it, man. An eventful Xfinity race on Saturday and an interesting finish involving you and Noah Gragson. Let's walk through that situation. Tell us what happened.
Well, man, just first of all, when the race started, I started dead last, and our points were not really. The 13 car doesn't really have a lot of points, and we started dead last. And it's always a fun racetrack to race at, but turns 1 and 2 was pretty good for me. But 3 and 4, the center of the corner, my car was super tight. So as the cautions come out and the stages hit us, we really worked on the car to get it to roll the center better. And, man, they made some good adjustments. And, man, we just got fortunate that our car turned out to really drive well. It had good speed, and, man, was able just to kind of pick them off one at a time and had a good race going. We adjusted on the car, trying to free it up as the race went on. And it was, I believe everybody's tight in the middle of 3 and 4. It is, you just don't want to be as tight as everybody else. So my car was really good. And, man, we got down to the end. And, man, I remember saying, hey, there's 10 laps to go. And I don't remember. They said you're in 13th or 12th. I don't remember where I was. I was just trying to catch the guy in front of me, which I wasn't going to catch because he was ways out there in front of me. But I was just trying to hit my marks and trying to keep what I had, and hoping the caution wasn't going to come out. But coming off, there was like 3 laps to go. I came off turn 2. Going down the back straightaway, and my spotter was telling me that, hey, the leader's coming. He's coming pretty quick. And about halfway down the back straightaway, I could feel something in the right front, like a tire was coming apart or something broke. The steering wheel started shaking a little bit. And I figured my spotter saying, hey, the leader's coming really fast. I really turned down into turn 3, got off the gas early, and I was making sure that I gave the leader the top lane because I knew the leaders, we all been running on the top side. And unfortunately, he wasn't there. But when I turned down into turn 3, the right front tire came apart and it put me in the wall. His car just took a right, and man, I hit the wall. And then, I don't know, it seemed like it was 5 seconds later, then I got creamed in the back. And I never really knew it was the leader. But man, unfortunately for him and unfortunately for us, it was the leader, and he was taken out, and man, it ended our day. We obviously the toe was messed up, A-frame was bent, some stuff like that. But anyway, just kind of, that's just, what I tell everybody is just racing. You know what I mean? It's just right front tire didn't stay together for us. Just came up a little short. But man, it would have been a nice. I didn't know this. And Jimmy was there. Jimmy had a car in the race, and he might have known this. But me as a driver out there, I didn't know that. But I guess a lot of the leaders was questionable whether they were going to make it or not. You know what I mean? And I think after the fact, when the race was over with, they said we were one of 5 cars that had enough fuel to go to the end, So, you never know how it's going to play out. You know what I mean? And you don't want to see a caution, and hell, you're the caution. You know what I'm saying? But, man, unfortunate, it just happens. It's just racing. But, man, to start dead last and kind of our first race together, it was going pretty good. It didn't end like we wanted it to, but it was a shame. And then, I felt bad for the, Noah, guy had a 9-second lead or 8-second lead, whatever the heck it was, and man, why he ran into me, I don't know. I feel bad for him. We had a little bit of a meeting, him, if that's what you want to call it. But, it's like, man, I said, man, if I could, I sure in the heck didn't want you to wreck. I didn't want to wreck. I mean, hell, I was having it's not often that us small teams, like, Carl Long's team or Jimmy Means' team or a lot of the other teams that, our budgets are very small. And, And when you have a chance to run in the top 15, man, it's almost like a win for us, you know, and to finish 12th or you maybe have an opportunity if somebody ran out of gas to finish in the top 10, that would have been big for us teams that you know, that are not your big powerhouse teams, you know, but anyway, it's just racing, and it's just a shame that it turned out that way, but it happens. And then, you know, everybody heard all the shenanigans after the fact, you know what I mean? So it was crazy, but it was a fun race. I really enjoyed it.
We'll bring in Dominic Aragon from the RacingExperts.com in just a moment, but I want to ask you, David, you mentioned that you two had a little bit of a conversation. We know what he said in the television interview. That doesn't need to be repeated. Is there any carryover from this? I know that you guys, you have you say it's just racing and such, but we know about rivalries, we know about feuds, just the history of this sport. Do you move on from this on to next week, or is there any holdover of some sorts? How do you go about moving on from this?
Man, you know, Noah Gragson, he's a great race car driver, and man, I'm just going to be honest with you. We're not in the league of Noah Gragson. Drives for Dale Earnhardt Jr. You know, if we're on the same lap as those guys, I mean, that's unusual. You know what I mean? They're that good. They operate on, you know, it's night and day budget. You know what I mean? The engineering, the technology, the engines, just everything. You know, they're supposed to be winning races, you know, and but man, from my part, my team, hey man, you just got to move on and go race. You know what I mean? You know, I hope to be on the same lap with him and trying to race with him. But, you know, I can assure you that we're not even in the same zip code. You know, I mean, they're just that good and have that much funding behind them. You know, obviously, I was the last car on the lead lap when my tire came apart and he ran into me. But, you know, there's no grudge. You got to move on and go race. Us as a small team, I mean, we were just fortunate to be on that same lap as he was. Unfortunately, that incident happened. It's just racing, but there's no grudge from my part, man. You just got to move on. So, yeah.
Dominic, we'll bring you in here. Anything you want to add as far as looking back on Saturday goes with David?
Yeah, well, I think it's no secret that you and I were pulling for our guy, David.
Right.
We work with David. So we have a little bit of a horse in the race,
we
right?
The TV time he got from AA and
cool.
Eric Almirola.
Yeah.
That was great.
Absolutely. The little plugs there for Whataburger and the analysts having a fun time with that. Absolutely. But no, I thought it was a great race. David had a good run going, and certainly the finish got a little altered there. But like David said, that's racing. Racing is racing. But man, it was a good race to certainly watch from home. Haven't been to Homestead in a couple of years, and just watching the race on TV. I mean, certainly nice to watch from the comfort of your own home, but definitely wish we were there for that one.
Yeah, certainly so. And Myatt Snyder gets the victory. David Myatt, we know about his dad, Marty, longtime pit reporter for NBC. Pretty cool to see Myatt end up getting that trophy at the end of the night.
Absolutely. It's always, you know, it just seems like there's a lot of first-time winners, you know, starting in 2021, you know. So he deserved it. He runs good, and, you know, he's a great little driver, and, you know, I was happy for him. So good for him, you know, and it was a great race, man. It was a lot of fun, you know, and I mean, it was a fun race, you know. It was awesome, you know, and to start dead last and to have such a great car like I had was just really cool, you know. Cool.
Oh, absolutely. David, it was cool seeing you claw through the field. And, hey, we got to give a quick shout-out, too. We know Josh Cockrell, he's been having the Let's Go Racing with David Starr logos on his paint scheme in the Galaxy Cup Series that races in iRacing. And, guys, he took the checkered flag at Homestead's Miami Speedway over the weekend. If you're watching the YouTube version, you're seeing right now the B-roll and the photos of some of that from the race, and Josh put on a clinic from what we can tell. So, man, Josh, you made the team here really, really proud of that win.
That's cool.
Congratulations, man. So cool.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Time to bring in Jimmy Means, our guest on this week's show. And, David, you and Jimmy go back a ways. Jimmy's been involved in this sport for a long time. Before we officially bring him in, why don't you take a second to introduce him and tell us about Jimmy Means?
Well, man, you know, as a wanting to be race car driver, you know, growing up and watching it on TV and being a fan of it, you know, I always always cheered for the Alka-Seltz for number 52, Jimmy Means car. You know, he was always there. You know, they gave him a lot of plugs on TV back then, and you read about him, and, you know, Mr. Independent doing it all on his own. And you know, it was kind of cool that, you know, that you would see him racing on TV all those years growing up and wanting to be like him. And then, you know, as everything progresses and you make it to NASCAR and you meet the guy, the next thing you know, you're driving for him. I mean, it's kind of, sometimes you got to pinch yourself. It's like, man, can't believe this is happening. But Jimmy's an awesome guy, great race car driver. And man, he's been doing this, I don't know how many years, maybe 40, 50 years. He'll have to tell us. But hey, Jimmy, welcome, buddy.
Thank you for having me.
Well, man, it's an honor, man. We have this podcast, and it's pretty cool. But it's an honor that you would join us. And man, you got a lot of race fans out there. And man, just thinking about you, and I was able to drive for you for 2 years. That was kind of a lot of fun, and heard a lot of your stories. You know, why don't you share with us how did Jimmy Means how did all this even start? Was your dad involved in racing? I mean, how old were you? Was there an uncle? You know, how did you even get interested in stock car racing?
Well, you know, growing up, we're typical, you know, American family. We didn't have a whole lot. Actually, my family never had a car until I was 20 years old. So, you know, I grew up, got a paper route at 12 years old, and kept that a couple of years, and happened to collect on a paper route. One evening, it was raining, and the people invited me into their house to, you know, to stand out of the rain when I collected on my paper route. And there was a Huntsville Speedway program on their coffee table. So I said, you might not look at that. So I looked at it. It was from Huntsville Speedway, and said, this looks pretty interesting. And from when I was 14 years old until today, that's what I wanted to do.
That's amazing, man. A freaking paper route at 12 years old, out there working, throwing papers, and go from throwing papers at 12 to end up a NASCAR race car driver for as long as you did. That's amazing. So you said Huntsville Speedway, Jimmy? Where was it?
Yeah, Huntsville Speedway. That's my start.
That's where you started. So how old were you? I remember you sharing a story with me that when you started racing, that you couldn't even use your real name because your mom didn't want you to race, something like that, or you didn't have a driver's license? Or
No, actually, you know, when I started, I was 20. Back then, that was young. You know, you didn't have these guys that, you know, driving go-karts and starting racing at 14 and 15.
Sure.
But I told my mom, I said, I'm going to build a race car. She said, no, you're not. So I said, okay, didn't argue. And the next thing she knew, I was racing at Huntsville Speedway. My sister told on me. So, but she never said a word about, you know, and then she always encouraged me and stood behind me. So it wasn't anything that she was concerned about the safety and stuff, but she let me do it.
That's amazing, man. 20 years old, and your mom, you didn't tell her, and your sister sitting in the stands and told your mom that her big brother was out there racing.
Well, we were little brother. I was the baby.
Okay, little brother. All right.
I'm the baby.
That's pretty cool.
Back in the day there at Huntsville Speedway, they had a lot of following because, you know, early days, like there's not a whole lot going on, and the local newspaper really supported Huntsville Speedway. Ronnie White was the main writer, and he was the reason that you know, kept Huntsville Speedway going. He kept it in the news, and we were really a fan of stock car racing. So the racers were in the paper 3 or 4 times a week. So your name got put out there where you won or lost or whatever. So, you know, if people reading the sports, they're going to see your name. So I didn't do this.
That's amazing. I remember, you know, I think you're a track champion there. I don't know, 2 or 3 times. And I remember you telling me a story that you would have won the championship there or did, but you wouldn't race at Nashville, wouldn't race somewhere, and you messed a weekend there, so you wasn't the champion. What year were you the champion there?
Well, I think actually it was I believe it was 74 this happened. We were leading we ran Huntsville on Thursday night, Birmingham, Alabama on Friday night, and Nashville, Tennessee on Saturday night, the fairgrounds. And wow. we were leading of course through the season, we were leading all 3 racetracks at the same time.
So you lead the championship at all 3 racetracks.
Same time. And we won I believe it was we won Huntsville, and our main competition at Birmingham was Neil Bonnet.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
Neil Bonnet. Yeah, I wound up finishing second to him 2 years in a row. But what happened at Birmingham, reason we didn't win that one or had a chance to win it, it rained a race out on Friday night. And I said, dang, I'm in a dilemma. I said, we're leading at all 3 racetracks, and we got to go to Nashville tomorrow night. But they scheduled the race for Saturday night at Birmingham. And I did the math, and Nashville paid the track champion $100 extra every race if you're the previous champion. I said, well, I got a chance to win all 3, but Nashville's going to pay me another $100 if I win it. So we went to Nashville instead of Birmingham, and I don't remember the math where that cost me that championship or not, because Neil was awful tough. But we did go to Nashville, and we wound up winning the championship. So we won 2 out of the 3.
That's amazing, man. It's kind of cool, but the rain cost you maybe 3 championships that year. So you got 2 out of 3.
It's a possibility. I mean, it really didn't do the math. We didn't have, the stats that we keep up with today.
Right.
But, I'd like to think maybe I could have won all 3.
That's amazing, man. I mean, that's kind of unheard of to race on Thursday night, and Friday night and Saturday night. Man, that was a lot of racing. And how far was those places from each other, Jimmy? Within 300 or 400 miles? I mean, that's
no. We were in the perfect spot. Huntsville, Alabama was halfway in between Birmingham and halfway in between Nashville.
okay.
So we went to Birmingham on Friday night and then come back home. It was 100 miles north to Birmingham. Then we'd come back home, and it's up 65, Interstate 65 to Birmingham. We'd come back home. Then it was up 65 to Nashville, 100 miles. So we were just perfect spot to run those 3 racetracks.
Jimmy, what kind of car did you have back then? What year was it? Chevelle?
Yeah, in the sportsman days it was Chevelle's. Early days was 55, 57 Chevrolets.
Man, that's amazing.
But people don't realize the technology. You think we've come so far with these Cup cars, Xfinity cars, but in all actuality, that front clip we run in today is designed off a 64 Chevelle front clip.
So we're still using that technology from 1964 today.
Yes, I mean, it's the same geometry, for it's the steering box location and stuff like that, and the drag length and lower A-frames. You could put a 64 Chevelle front clip on these race cars, and they would drive just like these cars.
That's amazing, unbelievable. That's pretty cool. And one of the things I wanted to ask you, were you considered part of the Alabama gang? Donnie Allison and Bobby Allison, Neil Bonnet, Red Farmer. You were part of that group, wasn't you?
Yeah, back in the day, we were in the 90s, but after the fact, Bobby and Donnie and Neil kind of got together, and they made them the exclusive Alabama game. So what's the word? There's a word when you. Anyway, what do you call it? I can't think of it. But anyway, they're the only 3 of the Alabama game.
Okay. And so, man, I got to ask you, and I know these guys, everybody's probably dying to know, how did you get the nickname Smut? Where did that come from?
You really don't want to know.
I think we want to know.
I think we want to know after that.
Now, seriously, though, like I said, I started, working on these things before I ever drove them. And when I was learning what to do on the cars, how to do motors and stuff, Smokey Unique back in the day had a book out, how to blueprint a small block Chevy. So, I read that thing front to back, back to front, and whatever, and I could quote anything in that book. And my guys that were helping on their late model cars, they said, well, you'll never be a Smokey. We're going to call you Smut. So, and I was Smut before Smut was derogatory. So I was a clean Smut.
So you take no offense to being called Smut then?
I hear that every now and then from my old timers, and I kind of like it. I mean, when I went to Winston Cup racing, Bobby Allison knew me as Smut from the short track days. And when I went to Winston Cup racing, he was one of the first. Because I didn't have it on my car or anything back then, in the Cup side. But he called me Smut around the racetrack, and it kind of stuck. Ken Squire would introduce me and said, Jimmy, Smut means.
That's a cool nickname though. Unbelievable.
But if you look up smut in the dictionary, it's not Jimmy Smut means today.
I'm sure Urban Dictionary is going to have its own definition for what it is.
If you look it up on the internet, nobody looks in the dictionary anymore. But the internet's not a cool thing to be smut. So
No, I hear you. Well, it's cool to be Jimmy Smut means though. That's pretty cool. So Jimmy, you're winning the championships. I mean, you're one of the top dogs at these short tracks in Birmingham, Nashville, and Huntsville. And how did when you're racing at that level? I mean, did you want to go NASCAR Cup racing? Was that a dream, a goal, or did it just kind of? How did that happen?
Well, it just kind of progressed. You get better and you get better, and you naturally you want to try to make that next step. But what pushed me to that was there was a guy in Birmingham, Alabama that had a roll cage kid and a rearing housing that he bought for a local Birmingham driver that he thought didn't really want to pursue racing. Like, I made a pretty good name for myself in Birmingham, being out of town. The first time I raced there, I probably weighed 115 pounds.
Wow.
And I had a following. And this guy, I regret I can't remember his name, but it has been 40 years ago. But he offered me those pieces. If you'll build a Winston Cup car, or not Winston Cup. It was Winston Cup, wasn't it? But you can have these parts. And then I said, so I got the parts. But also what pushed me to go on the Tri Cup was we were leading the points. The next year after I won it in '74, we were leading the points at Nashville again. With 4 races to go on the schedule, I stripped my spur gears, and the local guy took the lead of the points. And I was the first person to ever win it from out of state. I guess they didn't want to see me win that again, but they had 4 more races on the schedule. They never ran them 4 races.
They never ran those 4 races.
No.
Wow. So they didn't want an out-of-towner winning at Nashville Speedway then, right?
Second time in a row. So I know they knew what they did because they sent me the $400 for those 4 races that they didn't run.
Wow. That was pretty cool, but they didn't award you the championship.
I didn't run the championship because they didn't run another race. They explained to me that they had some kind of truck jump or something there. They had put dirt on the racetrack. They couldn't get it cleaned up. Bull crap on that. But anyway, that said, well, I'm gonna try something else. So I went to Cup.
Unbelievable, man. Man, I don't know how many years you ran Cup, but man, you had a long career at the biggest stage of auto racing that anybody could, that's the ultimate dream for, every race car driver in the world, or especially in the United States, to race like you raced. And it's kind of interesting that you were independent as long as you built your own race cars, you drove the hauler, you raced that long, and I don't really know that many. I know there was a lot more independents back then that did it, but I don't think they did it as long as you. You did it the longest, and I think you're probably the most successful at it out of all those guys.
Well, I don't think we did it the longest, but I saw a paper the other day, which was a Winston Cup scene, what they had back in the day, which was they covered all aspects of Winston Cup racing, independents and all that, and the big guys as well. But they had a piece that in there about the independents, and they mentioned me, said one of the most successful independent racers. So that kind of made me proud. I didn't remember that they published that back then, but we worked hard at it, and we had some success. We didn't win races, but I did something I loved for 19 years, and we got to go to the White House. We got to go to the Georgia mansion the governor's mansion when Jimmy Carter was running for president. So we got to do a lot of cool things, being associated with Winston Cup racing, and wouldn't change anything about it.
So, man, you went to the White House.
Yeah. It was during the David meeting. Unfortunately, Jimmy Carter wasn't there because of the Camp David meeting, but Rosen was there, and Willie was there playing, and I like to say we smoked we smoked weed long, but we didn't.
Willie Nelson was there. Wow.
It was the entertainment. So it was cool. You know, we had, I think my youngest daughter, Lori, she was in her mother's womb. And I think we took we couldn't take my son, but
Right.
it was cool. It was cool.
Man, that's pretty cool, man. Dude, guys, y'all ever been to the White House?
Dominic's been to the White House.
Have you?
Yes, I've been twice. I've been very fortunate, blessed, and honored to be able to go cover both times President Donald Trump was, what's it called, awarding and just recognizing the NASCAR Cup Series champion. So in 2018, in May of that year, we had like a 5 days notice to be able to get our clearance. And I mean, White House clearance is crazy, and to book the tickets and that sort of thing. But we were on the South Lawn. They had the 78 car Furniture Row Racing. They had a lot of distinguished guests from Furniture Row Racing that year, a lot of people in NASCAR. And then the following year, they honored Joey Logano for his 2018 championship. And they did the same thing. Car on the South Lawn. They had the meeting on risers. I have some really cool photos. I'll make sure to throw some photos up here on the YouTube version of the podcast. But that was a lot of fun. That was so cool to be there in the press room, see where the press room briefings take place. It's certainly an experience I'm never going to forget.
Absolutely, man. So, Jimmy, I wanted to go back to ask you, man, you had such a famous car that people still talk about today because it was so pretty. And, you know, I still see autograph cards and just see a lot of memorabilia of your Alka-Seltzer. How did all that come about? How'd you get that kind? That was a big time sponsor back then.
Well, I actually had a guy that came to me. You know, we had some success with in the late 80s. We ran pretty well a few races, and we got the opportunity to drive that Rick Hendrick's car in '87, that Folger's car, and got a lot of recognition from that. And we were fortunate from that. You know, the race didn't turn out well for us, but we got some recognition and we got some interest from other people. We were fortunate that we had got a couple of sponsors before the Alka-Seltzer. We had Turtle Wax, then we had Eureka Vacuum Cleaners.
Wow.
But the guy that got me both of those early sponsors, we were in Daytona, and he showed up at my room. I never met him before, and I think I've talked to him on the phone, but he knocked on my door in my room. It's like 10 o'clock at night, and this guy looked through the peephole. I said, I don't know this guy. So I opened the door. But so I didn't. But the next morning, he came to the racetrack here. I said, I got a check for you for $50,000 from Turtle Wax. So that's where it started. And he went on and got me the Rika sponsorship that year. I think it was 87. And he came up with, he's the one that got the Alka-Seltzer sponsorship for 89, 90, and 91. So that was good. And my son, when he was 14, designed that logo and the paint scheme on that race car.
Brad did.
Brad did, yeah.
That's amazing. I never knew that. That's pretty cool. Man, I can assure you that I've never had somebody knock on my door at the hotel at a racetrack to bring me a sponsor. Dude, that just don't happen. You know what I mean? And
that's cool.
I mean, really, I've never heard that happening. That's amazing, you know. And then you just mentioned something, you know, you said you didn't have a lot of success, but how can somebody that doesn't have a lot of success get a phone call from Rick Hendricks and get to drive for Rick Hendricks? So I guess what I'm trying to say is you got to be a pretty damn good driver to have Rick Hendricks come to you and say, hey, man, you want to drive the famous Folger's race car? Man, that's amazing. How did all that come to be?
Well, that was 87. We ran some prior to Charlotte. We had a few really good runs. Had a real good run at Richmond. We led some laps, and had a real good run at Dover. I think we knocked Dale Earnhardt out of the first round of qualifying at Dover.
Wow!
And then, like I said, we had some really good runs. And the phone rang one day. I've told this story before, but the phone rang one day, and it was Jimmy Johnson, a different Jimmy Johnson. You know, their team, the manager for Hendricks was, I think he's passed on now.
Right.
But he called and said, this is Jimmy Johnson with Hendricks Motorsports. We'd like to talk to you about running the Rick Hendricks 25 car, Folger's car at Charlotte. I hung up the phone.
You hung up on him?
That's awesome.
Somebody just playing with it. So phone rang again. And then, you know, it's, hey, this is Jimmy Johnson. I said, hung up again. Called back the third time. He said, don't hang up. This is really it, Jimmy Johnson.
So you hung up on him twice?
Yeah, because I thought somebody was pranking me. So, but then finally, and I said, yeah, that'd be pretty cool. And, so we went and had a conversation, and I said, here's the deal. I said, I would love to drive it, but the only way I'll drive it if you'll put 52 on the car. And they did. Because the 25, to keep my owner points up and all that. And the 25 car wasn't running all the races, so it didn't hurt them to run the 52. So they didn't have anything loose point wise.
Right. That's a pretty cool story, man. It's not every day that you get a phone call from Hendrick Motorsports, man. That's pretty awesome. And y'all were in Richmond, Jimmy. Was that or Charlotte? Where'd you run it at? Charlotte?
Charlotte.
Okay.
Yeah. And unfortunately, we wound up in a wreck, not of our doing, but it took out like 5 or 10 cars, something like that. But then my day was over short, really short. But very disappointing.
That's still pretty cool, man. I mean, that's somebody called me. It was from Hendrick Motorsport. I'd probably hang up too. Somebody's doing a prank on me. You know what I mean? That's those types of phone calls. I mean, this is just dreams come true, really. But that's pretty cool. Yeah, and I guess you have a good relationship still with Rick today after all these years.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you a quick story that Rick called me one day. It's been 3 or 4 years ago, maybe 5, and we hadn't probably talked since '87. We might have, met in passing and stuff. But I got a phone call one night, and I said, I'm sitting here at dinner with my cousin, John Hendricks. He said, I just wondered if you knew him. I said, or remember? I said, no. He said, well, he went to school with you at Butler High School in Huntsville, Alabama. And that was during the time when, out of high school, he was a year earlier than me. So I was out of high school, and, I went straight to racing. And we had success, and we're not going to talk about Ronnie White really supporting a local paper. I'm guessing that, with us being in the paper all the time for, racing those 3 racetracks and stuff, that he kept up with what was going on. And so, he said, well, I just wanted to know if you remembered him. And I said, well, no, I'm sorry, I can't. I don't remember him. But at the end of the conversation, Rick said, was there anything I can do for you? Let me know. So, and I studied on that for quite a while. What did that mean? If I can do anything for you. So, we're still, we're running Xfinity Series, and money's tight and all that. So I got the nerve to call him, and I've got his number in my phone, which I'm pretty proud of that. Right. And then I can, I don't abuse that privilege, but to have that. But I got the nerve to call him one. I said, Rick said, I need some parts to build a couple of engines. I don't want them for free. I just didn't have the connection with any of the motor guys to get a foot in the door to get these pieces. Sure. So I need to buy pieces. I want to build 2, RO7 engines, which we were given. We were running SV2s at the time, so we wanted to step up and make our program better. He said, no problem. Said, just give me a list. Gave me a person's name to call. So give me a list of what you need. And then, so I did that, and they got all the parts rounded up. And I said, what I owe you? He said, nothing.
Wow.
So, and I didn't tell him. I said, I need everything to build motors, but I didn't tell him that I needed blocks because I didn't want to be that greedy.
Sure.
So, and I go, I got a connection now with the parts people. So I go to the parts people. I say, I need 2 blocks. And they say, okay, there's so-and-so and so-and-so, but you get the Kenny Schrader discount, which means I paid from Hendricks. So I get 30% off of whatever it costs, which I'd have been doing it years before. But anyway, I put the numbers, whatever the blocks were, I put them on a credit card, and the next day the phone rang from the parts guy, said, Mr. H didn't want you paying for those blocks either. He's giving them to you.
Wow.
That's the man in that position to know what's going on in our organization. That's amazing to me, that he knows all the little things, what's going on.
Absolutely. But it just, you got to feel proud. I mean, to have Rick Hendricks, obviously he's, Rick Hendricks in our sport today is just, he's the man, and to have him recognize you and call you on the phone and ask you if you knew his brother, and then cousin. Okay, all right, but it's not every day that Rick Hendricks could lets people know, hey man, there's anything I can do for you, let me know. I mean, that's a big deal, and be able to call him up and then be able to buy parts and pieces from him, man. That just it's got to make you feel proud of what's obviously. It just goes to show you that the career you had and the name you have and what you accomplished, man. That's pretty rewarding right there.
Let me throw this in there. You know who John Hendricks is? What he went on to do?
No, sir.
He formed the Discovery Channel.
Wow, really?
Yes.
And you went to school with him, and that's Rick's cousin.
Yep.
Wow.
And the reason, let me go a little bit back with this story. Rick said he hadn't been in contact with his cousin for maybe a few months because after the Civil War, one of the grandfathers changed their last name from Hendricks to a Hendrick. One of them had an S and one of them didn't have an S. So that's the reason they kind of lost touch with one another. But then through, I guess, all this, technology and the internet, they found out that they were kin.
That's amazing, Jimmy. And Jimmy, did he end up bringing? Do I remember right or I remember wrong? Was Discovery Channel on somebody's race car? Were they a sponsor in our sport? I don't remember.
To be honest, I don't remember.
They've sponsored before. I can't recall off the top of my head, but they've been involved in the sport before.
Wow, that's pretty awesome, man. Wow, to have that relationship with Rick Hendrick, that's pretty amazing. Unbelievable.
So another name that comes to mind too, Jimmy, is Dale Earnhardt Jr. You and him go back a ways. Tell us about your relationship with Dale.
Well, I don't know. I don't really, we've really to know how that progressed, and to have the following from him that he does back for me in my career. Other than the fact that we had we took time to talk to him and spend some time with him, and I think that Dale Sr. brought him down to my hauler one day and said, "This is Jimmy Means," and because he had already taken a liking to me and mentioned me around his dad and stuff, and my son and Junior got to be really good buddies, and actually they still are today. So. But for Junior to and he'll still say it today that I was one of his heroes growing up, behind his dad. But I remember that deal we had, that race at Charlotte in '87, that he was up in Dale's condo, and when we got in that wreck, he cried that I was at the race that early. That's how much he was pulling for me and wanting good things to happen for me.
Man, that's amazing, Jimmy. Unbelievable. I want to ask you a little more about Dale Jr. Did you once tell me that y'all were at a race somewhere, and I don't remember if you wrecked in qualifying or practice. I don't remember what the scenario was, but Dale Jr. came over and offered you a race car for y'all to race. Is that true?
Yeah, I think that was the first year for the COT cars, and we had some suspension part come loose, which was my fault because I was the one that was nut and bolted it and safety wired it, and I left one piece loose, and that piece came off, and we almost killed Bobby Santos. But
wow.
And the car held up, and it was a vicious hit. He hit on his left side on the inside wall, but
right.
It was okay. And I went to the infield center to check on Bobby, and one of my guys called me and said, "Dale Jr.'s over here at the hauler. He wants to talk to you." I said, "Okay, I got to check on my driver first, make sure he's okay."
Right.
So I think Junior waited for like 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and never left my hauler waiting on me. So finally made it back over there, and he asked me, he said, "Do you have a backup car?" I said, "No, we don't." "Do you want one?" I said, "Well, sure." So after our last practice, I think they had. I don't know how many backup cars they had for all 3 or 4 of their cars. But if we don't need it, said, "You can get this backup car." I said, "Great." So that all happened. We got it, and the numbers changed, over 52 on it. And what was cool about that is that Tax Slater stepped up and sponsored that race.
For you?
For me, which, it was all went to Junior. That's fine because it wasn't a big loss to juniors because Staxler was on the race car.
Right.
And I remember I think it was Tony Erie, senior or junior, I don't remember, said, "We'll bring that car back in a basket." Never got a scratch on it and finished 17th.
That's pretty awesome, man. That's pretty cool, man. It's
what's cool about that. I asked Junior, I said, "How many laps do you want us to run?" He said, "Run the whole dang race." I said, "You can't make no money if you don't race." So we got the purse, and he didn't want anything from it. And if it hadn't been for that, I would have probably been out of racing. So
that's wild.
What a story, man. Is that cool? I mean, driving for Rick Hendricks, needing a car, to know that Jimmy left something loose and it fell off of it, that's why you don't really hear things like that. But for Dale Jr. to come over and give you a race car, a complete race car, put a sponsor on it, give you the complete purse, tell you to run the whole race, I mean, that's unbelievable, man. That's really cool stuff, man. Wow.
Oh, yeah. That's great to hear. So a few more things with you, Jimmy, while we have some time. You and David, we mentioned, have history going back a bit, and David raced for you. What do you remember about working with David and your time together?
I don't think you want me to say all about that or not.
Oh, we want the cold hard truth.
Man.
I always told him he was the best 55-year-old driver out there.
He's way off on my age, way off.
He wasn't that old then, but that's what I told him.
Yeah,
you mean 60, right?
No, we had a good time. We kind of struggled, along the ways at some points, but we had some really good runs, and he was a pleasure to work with. And it's a shame that we couldn't have went on, and running together. But it's all economics and stuff. That's a shame the way this sport is. But that's what it came down to.
Yeah, it was cool. It was cool driving for Jimmy because I love the history of the sport, and Jimmy has a lot of history. He's been doing it for so long, and to be able to race for a legend like Jimmy and underfunded team, and we had some good runs. His cars were fast. They drove well. So it was fun. It was a lot of fun, and I think I got a lot more fans on my side because I drove for Jimmy. He's got a big following, and so that it was really a neat opportunity, and I appreciate it, Jimmy. It was cool. We did a lot with not a whole. I think we did a lot with not a lot of money to work with, and that's one of the things that people in our sport really respect about Jimmy. His cars run good, and if people knew, and most of the racing teams knew the type of money that he races on, they wouldn't even go to the racetrack, and so it's cool to see a guy race as long as you did and own your own team as long as you have. It's really cool to see the longevity of Jimmy Means Racing. It's a pretty neat deal. You got to be proud of that.
Yeah, it's been doing this almost 50 years. So
wow.
I guess if I been successful at something else, I could have retired. But I still love to do it, and especially when the car runs good. And when you do, it's like you running. You had a great run. I was kind of jealous at Homestead because that car was getting it done. I know it was a car. It wasn't you. The car was awesome. Yeah, and he took it to the front. And it's fun, and I know that your race team felt really proud of that.
Mm-hmm.
You outran great cars, and and you're doing it with like you say, they spend money on ice a lot of times, and we got in our budget to go race. So that's what back in the day, Buddy Arrington, one of the independents we raced with way back then, he just used to get so mad at the big teams, all the amount of ice that they waste. There'd be 10 bags of ice laying on the ground, just melting away. That made him so dang mad. Them guys waste so much money, and but to be honest, we run off their droppings. And if it wasn't for the big teams, we couldn't run as well as we do. We couldn't even be in it, to be honest with you. But it's just the deal where we all feed off of the big teams. But we can't race without that. And the big teams need us too. 20 big teams can't run. It's not a show. They need somebody to pass, and sometimes we pass them. So that's what we do this for.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think Jimmy's, Jimmy's brought up a good point. When I raced for Jimmy, he, a lot of people help him. A lot of people want to help him, and he's got a big following and a lot of respect in our industry for Jimmy Means, and that was cool. The Hendricks and Childress and the relationship that Jimmy has. It's like, man, that don't just happen overnight. That's out of just a long career as a driver and a team owner. It's really cool. And, like Dale Earnhardt Jr. bringing you a car, giving you a car. It's a really neat deal. And it's cool that I don't know. I don't really know of anybody else that's done it as long as Jimmy has, and made a living doing it as long as Jimmy has. It's really unique, Jimmy. Is there anybody that you can think of that's done it as long as you? I think maybe Richard Petty, AJ Foyt, Yeah, but Dave's been out of it a while. When he retired, he wasn't a team owner. You know what I'm saying? You look at Kel Yarbrough and a lot of the guys that Jimmy raced against that were very, very successful, but they didn't go on to be successful team owners. They maybe tried it for a year or two, and then they were out. So to race as long as you did, and to have your own team, and not just your own team. Jimmy Means Racing is a winning racing team. You've won races before. You've had drivers that win races for you. So. What a great career, unbelievable.
And we've been fortunate to be able to, be honest with you, since the first race car I had I started in 1970 as a driver. And since 1970, that car has always made $1. And if it didn't, I couldn't race. So been fortunate that it's always paid its way. I never not paid my bills. And I feel pretty proud of that. That somebody said here a couple of years ago that they were picking up something for Jimmy Means. And he said, "Oh, he's one of the few that pays his bills." So that I think I've got a decent reputation, and I want to keep that. So when the day comes that I can't pay my bills, and I'm not going to race.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, one more question for you, Jimmy, before we get to our news and notes segment that I want to ask you here is this year you got Gray Gaulding in the car. Tell us about this team that you have this year and having Greg behind the wheel.
Well, we started out this year, and I've made a commitment to him because the kid finished 13th in the points here a year or so ago. We got to step our program up to as good a race car driver as he is. He is a good speedway racer, awesome road course racer, and we just got to put something under it. I'm really, this is probably the most pumped I've ever been. It's the best driver I've had in my car since me. So I'm hoping that we can just put something other to prove how good he is.
He's a great little race car driver, man. He's just a good little race car driver, and he's done a lot he's done a lot, gotten a lot out of race cars that the race car wasn't there. And man, I think it's going to be a great season for you. And it's cool to see you have a little hot shoe up and coming race car driver in your race car. I look for big things out of the 52 car with Gray Gaulding, and the crew chief you have, Tim, man. Every time I drove that car, thing drove well, handled good. So y'all got a good program. So I think we're going to see the 52 up there, top 15s, top 10. With this little hot shoe driver you have.
We hope that happens. We had a really good car at Daytona. We got in one of those wrecks that we shouldn't have been up there that early, but we were fast there. Really good at the Daytona road course, and lost our brakes a little bit. And but we showed that he had something. He could do that. So we ran a top 10 a while. So and just looking forward. We got 6 more road courses, and then I'm just hoping we can put something on him to show what he can do.
Absolutely.
Right. That's great. Guys, let's go ahead and get to this week's NASCAR News and Notes segment. Don, let's start out by looking back at the Homestead race. William Byron gets into victory lane. 3 first-time winners, or three different winners, rather, in the first 3 weeks of the season.
Well, I will say, Tyler, just to kind of back up what you just said, if we do take the average amount of wins between McDowell, Bell, and Al Byron, we have 1.33 career wins between the 3 of them. So we do have a lot of first time and a lot of newer faces coming to victory lane. But William Byron did lead the most laps at Homestead in the Dixie Vodka 400 on Sunday to capture his 2nd career win. But I think big picture here too, guys, this pairing with Randy Fugle, his crew chief that he won 7 races with in that rookie campaign in 2016 in the Truck Series. Seems like it's paying dividends very early in their relationship.
David, go ahead. What do you think of what Byron did on Sunday?
Oh, hey, his new crew chief and the past history they have. And again, like we were talking with Jimmy, to be able to be friends with Rick Hendricks and be able to have his phone number and buy parts and pieces from him. And, the Hendrick organization, they don't get much better than that in our industry, So when you see the 24 car, the 48 car, it's not a surprise to me to see how good that car was yesterday. I can't tell you that I was really impressed with Michael McDowell. He ran really good all day long, and that was kind of cool to see him back up that run yesterday because he won the Daytona 500. And sometimes people say, but it was kind of cool to see him, how competitive he was yesterday. And also Chris Buescher was really impressive the first half of the race. I don't know if what happened to his car later on in the race, but it was a great race. And Kurt Busch was also impressive. Kurt ran the top 5 all day long. I watched him and listened to him, and he had a tire going down, or a loose tire towards the end, and he pitted under green and was able to unlap himself and come back and have a great finish. But it's not surprising to me that what Byron did yesterday, especially those Hendrick cars, and I think we're going to see at one point in time, I think it was first, second, third were Hendrick cars, or they had 3 of the cars in the top 5 the whole race. It's not surprising to me.
Yeah. Jimmy, what did you make of Sunday's Cup race?
Well, it's I think that Tyler Reddick's learned Kyle Larson's line. So it was just also, I just wish Tyler could have mounted that charge a little sooner, so he might have had something for him.
Yeah, he was coming. He was coming at the end, man. He was on that wall, man. It was impressive to watch him, and how fast he was. And I don't remember. I think his tires were just as old as everybody else. Was that right, Jimmy? I don't remember if he pitted. I don't remember, but man, he was strong at the end.
Yeah, I just think he said he got on himself about making some mistakes on the restarts that he wished he could go back and redo.
Right.
He just put himself in a hole. He said it's just kind of hard to build to dig himself way out of it.
Right.
Yeah. And you mentioned Michael McDowell, 3 top 10s to open up the season. David, I mean, is a comparison wise? I mean, he's kind of driving in Cup the equipment that you drive in Xfinity. I mean, really impressive to see him week after week here back up what he's done. I mean, this is quite the start for Michael McDowell. This is something special that he and that front row team are putting together, and it looks like Roush Yates is back. It's been a while since we've talked about that engine department doing well.
Right. Well, one of the things I want to say about Michael McDowell, and Jimmy's going to talk about that, because I want to say what they have done and their sponsorship they have, it looks like that they're getting the type of funding it takes to really have the right people and build great race cars. And, the Roush Yates motors are running, I don't think that's hurting them a bit, but one of the cool stories, and I'm going to let Jimmy share this with you, I think Jimmy was responsible for bringing in the owner, the guy that owns the Front Row Motorsports, was partners with Jimmy. Jimmy got him into NASCAR racing. I could be saying this, I don't know if I'm saying it right, but we'll let Jimmy elaborate a little bit on that. Jimmy brought that, seemed like that Jimmy has a lot of history with the owners there.
Well, Bob Jenkins from Front Row Motorsports contacted me back when I was still driving, probably 91 or 92, probably 92, and wanted to sponsor me at Bristol. And I told him he said, what will it take? And I told him a number. And I said, and at that time, he didn't know, he worked for Taco Bell corporate. He didn't own stores like he does now. He said, let me see if I can put that together. So he called me a day or so later, said, I've got this much cash I can give you. And then the rest of it, I'll have to put on a Taco Bell payroll for you guys to make out to come up to the sum that you want. I said, okay, that'll work. So we had he was put a lot of effort in trying to help me and finding me sponsors, and he was part of our race team. And then he wanted to step up and to we had Xfinity car together, and then he wanted to step up and go to Cup, and he wanted to run that out of a different shop in Mooresville to be closer to everything. And I worked for him for a couple of years. I think I was like a team manager, and I spotted for him. And then I was standing up on the I was spotting at Talladega, and I was standing up on the top of the building, and I was counting all the Xfinity cars down there, or Busch cars, whatever we were then. And I said, they don't have enough for a field. So what am I doing standing up here? I'm going to get me another race car. So that's what I did. And I bought Bob out of his interest in our Xfinity car or our team. And I stuck with Xfinity, and he went on to did Cup, and put a lot of his own money in it. And it's gratifying to see that some of his fruits are coming to fruition. And I texted him after he won the race. I always text him when he wins anyway, but I texted him after winning the Daytona 500. I said, Bud, you won the biggest one of them all. So congratulations. He texted me back. Says, yeah, Jimmy Maines, you got me in this crazy crap. So.
Isn't that a cool story, man? That's amazing, you know. And hey, Jimmy, I want to go back and ask you. So, you had Taco Bell as a sponsor.
It was Taco Bell. It was like a regional deal. It wasn't his office, I think, was around Tennessee and the Bristol area. It wasn't corporate money. It was something he put together at a regional store.
But still pretty cool to have Taco Bell on the race car. And did I hear you right? So he gave you cash, and then the rest, your employees that work for you, he was paying them like they were Taco Bell employees.
Yeah, they got Taco Bell checks every week.
That's great.
Is that cool?
That's thinking outside the bun right there, you know.
Hey, you do what you need to do to get things done, and he got it done.
Absolutely, man. Isn't that cool, Tyler?
That's great.
Man, that's pretty cool.
Great.
That's some good history, man, about Bob Jenkins. You know, Jimmy's kind of responsible for bringing him into the dang sport, man. Unbelievable.
Yeah. That's too cool.
Bob's been very, very successful. You know, he's a astute businessman. I think he probably has 300 Taco Bell stores of his own.
Wow.
And he has some Long John Silver's, and he's got a trucking company. So he's quite the entrepreneur.
Yeah, absolutely. Pretty cool story.
Very cool. Guys, we got time for our last segment before we get out of here today. It's our Ask David segment, where we ask you to submit questions to us on Facebook and Twitter at Star Podcast. Email davidstarpodcast@gmail.com. You can reach us there. We'd love to hear from you. And our first question comes from Teresa. She writes, David, are your boys following in your footsteps into racing?
Well, one of them is my oldest one, who is 11. You know, he's a big sports guy. He likes football, baseball, basketball. You know, he loves racing, but he's not passionate about it. Now, my little 7-year-old guy, Vancy, I call him, he's my racer. You know, we got him a little racing go-kart. He races a little bit here and there, but man, he'll tell you all about Tony Stewart and Kyle Larson and, you know, a lot of the World of Outlaw guys. He just studies it. Every time I turn around, he's asking me about dirt racing. He watches it on his iPad, and he's like, Dad, I want a muddy race car with a wing on it. You know what I mean? He wants to race sprint cars, you know. So I remember years ago we were at the go-kart track, and he wasn't running the right line. They were kind of killing him off the corner, you know, because of the way he was entering the corner. You know, he needed to make the corner a little bit wider and keep the momentum in the center of the corner. And man, I was out there, and I put cones out there, and I'm trying to teach him. And my uncle was there, and Mike said, man, for what you need to happen is for your kids not to like racing. I'm like, man, what are you talking about? And he said, man, you're going to always be broke. You know, and so little Vance wants to run a sprint car. So there's a go-kart, there's a little dirt track west of the Texas Motor Speedway that races, you know, these certain types of go-karts that have wings on them. And so, man, he just asked me, early today when he got home from school. Dad, when we gonna buy a sprint car? You know what I mean? So, man, I'm so he's going to be the one following my footsteps. But anyway, I'm saying, hey, let Daddy race a little bit more, and we'll see what we can do. But I'm kind of holding him up right now. Like Jimmy was talking about earlier. When he started, he was 20. I was 14. But man, the kids start at 6, 5, 7 years old these days. It's amazing how young they are when they start racing. And they're really good. So anyway, every week. A week or months that go by that he don't have his little sprint car to go race at the little dirt track, he's letting me know, that's for sure. So he's gonna be my little racer.
Okay, there you have it. Jimmy, how about you? What's the racing like for your family?
Well, my son did a little bit of racing early on. Ran some late models and ran Hooter Pro Cup and stuff. But he got married and built a brand new house, and my racing days were over. I said, you got to want racing as much for yourself as I do for you. So I said, you don't want it as hard as much as I do for you. So he's quite a fabricator, probably one of the best in the business. So he's involved in racing on the fabricating side.
That's cool. Well, I'm still looking forward to the opportunity, David, when I get to come down to your racing school and you get to put me in a race car, because I got a need for speed.
There you go, man. It's pretty awesome, man. It's pretty awesome. And I'm kind of like Jimmy. What was cool about driving for Jimmy Means was and knowing how Jimmy was such an independent, built his own race cars, drove his hauler. He did it all. He was a mechanic. I don't think he jumped out of his car during a pit stop and changed the tires, but he did pretty much most of it, the passion and the desire, like he's talking about, that Brad didn't have after he got married. I love that, man, and to do it today in today's world of NASCAR racing, I mean, you got to really want it bad for people like myself and Jimmy Means and a lot of other guys that we race with, because, man, it's so hard. It's so tough. And it's all economics. You got to have sponsors, and man, it's just you spend every day just trying to get enough money to go race so you can give the money to the racing teams and they have a budget they can work on. But man, to be able to do that and want to do that, because man, it's 24/7 trying to get enough money to do it. It's not easy, as you guys know. You got to be very passionate about it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, yeah.
So Dominic, if I could work anywhere besides the media or PR, I would want to be a driver. What about you? If you could choose any role you could be besides media or PR in racing?
Okay, if it has to be outside of that, heck, I'd love to be behind the wheel myself, but I've never even gotten behind the wheel of anything at the local dirt track, but I am planning on changing that here pretty soon. So hopefully get to keep you all updated on that. But definitely would love to get behind the wheel of something besides a go-kart.
Oh, yeah, that'd be cool. Last question for you. This one comes from Kirby. Kirby writes, guys, what's the best advice you've ever been given? And who do you thank for that? What was the best advice and who did it come from? Let's start with you this time, Jimmy.
Well, I'm going to tell you what Red Farmer told me about 47 years ago. He said, don't ever go to a race without your overcoat and your bathing suit.
What does that mean, Jimmy? Say that again?
You don't ever go to a race without your overcoat and your bathing suit, because you don't never know what the weather's going to be. It holds true today.
Yes, it does. Wow. That's interesting, man.
He told me that 47 years ago, first time I went to Daytona.
Unbelievable. Wow.
How about you, David?
Man, there's been so many, so many. I'm just trying to, I remember as a little kid growing up, I idolized A.J. Foyt. He had a car that raced at Myers Speedway where my dad was working with a guy named Ronnie Chelmy and Tony Bittenhausen Jr. And A.J. had a car there. And man, when AJ would show up, I kind of idolized him as a little boy. And then when I got old enough to be able to drive, I would go hang out of his shop. And then I started racing late model dirt cars. And I'd go up there just try to be friends with anybody that would be friends with me. I was kind of a pest and in the way. And a couple times, I got to visit with AJ, and you want to tell him how wonderful you are, and you're winning all these dirt races. And I remember one time he told me, he gave me some advice. He said, "Hey man, you need to shave. You need to put on some cleaner clothes. You need to present yourself better." And he said, "Man, you can win every dirt race all over the country, but you know, if you don't have sponsors and you don't present yourself well, you're never going to go anywhere." You know, and he said, I remember him telling me that was like it was yesterday. You know what I mean? And you know, why he was telling me that, I don't even remember why, but I remember that like it was yesterday. And that was a piece of advice I learned from him, you know, because, man, I just, you know, when you're racing at the local dirt tracks, and kind of like Jimmy was telling us that he raced Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, you know, when I was younger, started my dirt racing career as a young kid, we raced on a Friday night and a Saturday night. Man, I sure in hell didn't worry about what kind of clothes I was wearing, or if I shaved or my hair was, you know, I just, man, I love working on the cars and being at the racetrack. And, you know, I was kind of like a little redneck, you know what I mean? But, you know, I was just so happy to doing it. But anyway, I mean, there's been so much advice from a lot of different people, you know. A lot of times if you'll just shut your mouth and listen to people talk, you'll learn a lot. You know, Jimmy Means is one of those guys. He's been doing it forever, and the way he did it and how he did it and the career he's had, I love hearing his stories, you know what I mean? But again, if you just listen to people, you learn so much, you know what I mean? It's amazing.
Yeah, dress for the job you want, not the one you have, as they say.
Absolutely. You know, what about you guys, man?
Well, I don't know if it's the best advice I've received, but it's the one that hit me the most recently, that I've put a lot of thought into, and especially in this day and age, guys, of cancel culture and everything. My dad, he told me a while back, he said, "We give grace because we need grace." And so I've been finding myself being more patient with people, trying to, you know, let stuff go by and such, and just, you know, just give grace, because we all need it too. None of us are perfect, and try to show that same grace we all need. So that's kind of what's hit me. I don't know if it was the best advice I received, but my dad, I know he's a pretty smart guy. You guys have met my dad. But it was something that certainly hit home with me within the last several months, especially in this day and age. What about you, Dom?
Sure. No, kind of piggybacking off that too. My brother, who you all met too on an earlier episode of Let's Go Racing, he's kind of my sane voice in my corner. He's the one that's always telling me, "No, we'll think that out a little bit more. Hey, do you really want to do that? Or, well, let's weigh out the options." And I feel like maybe it's not one single piece of advice, but just seeing how he methodically looks at everything and how he's able to handle situations, it's inspiring to me. And like my grandmother, she, bless her soul, she's 77 years old, and she's somebody I look up to so much. Came from nothing and made the most of her opportunities, and just look at how she treats people. And to me, that's inspiring to treat, especially, it sounds so cliche, but treating others the way you want to be treated absolutely goes a long way.
Yeah. That's great.
Amazing. Sounds like Jimmy Means. Jimmy said earlier that they didn't have a car until he was 20 years old. Y'all didn't have a car, Jimmy, till you were 20?
That's right.
Wow. That's amazing, man.
My first race car hauler was a bar and truck and a bar and trailer.
Really?
It was a race car. Yep.
Hey, I want to ask one more question before we end our show, because it's amazing. Jimmy once told me that they were traveling to a race, and I think they were coming home from a race, and the motor blew up in his pickup truck or whatever, his hauler, whatever it was. But they actually unloaded the race car, pulled the motor out of the race car, and put it in the tow truck to be able to get back to the race shop. Is that true, Jimmy?
Yeah, we were coming back from Pocono, and that's when I still lived in Alabama. Knoxville, Tennessee, we dropped a valve. This is in the July heat. We got a wrecker that pulled it had an open trailer and a box truck. And the wrecker pulled us to the service station parking lot, and we took the motor out of the race car. We took the motor out of the truck with a wrecker boom, took the oil pan off of the truck motor and the oil pump, and took the oil pan off of the race motor, because the race motor was a dry sump and the truck motor, wet sump.
Right.
And we put the pan on the race car motor, stuck it in the car, and we got home at 9 o'clock. This all started at 7 o'clock in the morning. Got home at 9 o'clock that night, And all of this was to save a $200 record bill.
Wow.
To save $200 in 1977.
Isn't that amazing, man? I can just sit here and listen to Jimmy's stories. I mean, that's unheard of. And Dominic and Tyler, in today's world of auto racing, you know, it's economic, it's sponsorship, it's money. But a lot of us drivers, you know, obviously most of us, everybody pays, you know. And a lot of kids today, you know, you look at their racing careers and how they got there and what they've done and how they made it to NASCAR, you know, and their accomplishments. A lot of them doesn't have the stories that Jimmy Means has and all these other legends in our sports have, you know, because it's different, you know. I like my good friend Brendan Gaughan that was a guest on our show before. Brendan, I'll straight out tell you, I said, man, I don't know how to build an A-frame. I don't know about wedge and stagger and gear ratios. I don't have a clue about that. But what he does have is the ability to have the funding to be able to pay the racing team to drive the best race car and go race, you know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. I think it's wonderful. But a lot of times the kids today that have that, where they have that ability to be able to pay and get the best team or however they grew up racing, they lose those stories, you know what I mean? It ain't like they stayed up all night long and built their race car and had to, you know, and slept for an hour in the race shop, got back up, started working again to be able to make it to the racetrack, load up the race car. You're really not finished with it, but you got to load it up and get to the racetrack. You know, I just think our industry has changed a lot over the years, and there's nothing wrong with that, but you don't, you know, you don't find newer guys in our sport that have these cool, crazy stories that we hear from Jimmy Means. You know what I mean? It's like, man, that's unheard of. You're coming home from a race, your motor blows up, somebody tows you to a parking lot, you hire a wrecker to pull your motor out of your pickup truck, and then you pull the motor out of the race car and put it in the pickup truck to be able to finish up and traveling back to the race shop. I mean, that's unheard of, man. That's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's just it's cool to hear those stories. You know, we could stay on here for hours and listen to all what Jimmy's got to tell us. You know, all the stories he has. You know,
I know, Jimmy. We're going to have you back at some point to tell us some more stories.
Absolutely.
Hey, anytime, Jimmy. We'd be glad to have you on. Before we get out of here, real quick, David, heading to Vegas, first race not in the state of Florida. Tell us just real quickly, what's it going to take to have a good finish at Las Vegas?
Man, you know, obviously the driver's got to do his job, but, you know, you got to have a good car there. It's a fast racetrack, really bumpy in turns 1 and 2. And, you know, it's a challenging racetrack. It's fun. I've won there before, but it's a great racetrack. It's fun, but, you know, you always want to have a good run, you know, and for teams like Carl Long's team that I for and Jimmy's teams and some of the other teams that we operate on, not very big budgets. For us, you know, all of us, we want to, if we can finish in the top 10, top 15, I feel like I want to pull into victory lane with the winner. You know, I think before my career is over, I'd love to pull into victory lane. They think you're an idiot, kick you out of the sport for doing it. You know what I mean? But, you know, when we finish in the top 15, my team, Jimmy's teams, or, you know, a lot of these teams that really don't have a big budget to work on, it's almost like a win for us. So I'll be shooting to do the best we can do, and hopefully we'll have just as good as the car we had last week. And, you know, I know Jimmy's will, you know, he'll go there. He's got a little hot shoe race car driver. And you know, Jimmy will tell you they want to finish in the top 15, top 10 as they can, you know, so.
Yeah. And Jimmy, you'll be, your team got the 52 car with with Gaulding on it. Tell us real quick about you guys heading into Vegas here.
We certainly hope we can rebound from the Homestead race. We were terrible, probably the worst we have ever been. And I feel bad for Gray to have to drive something that we were opposite from David. David had a hot rod. We had a Model T, man. We had a slug. So we want to rebound from that and you know, so we can showcase what Gray can really do. And I'm kind of embarrassed after last week, and we really want to improve on what we did last week.
One thing, guys, one thing about Jimmy Means, when I drove for Jimmy, he understands as an owner. A lot of these owners don't understand really they understand the business of it, but they don't understand the racing side of it. And one thing about Jimmy, because Jimmy's been there and done everything that any of us drivers deal with today. He's been there and done that, you know. And one of the cool things it is about driving for Jimmy, he understood, you know, he said, hey, man, if that thing won't get in the corner, you're not going to be any good, you know what I mean? So he understands what that means and knows that you don't have a good race car underneath you. I don't care, you know, if you're Richard Petty or AJ Foyt, you know, it's going to be hard to drive, you know. So that's kind of cool. It was working for Jimmy that he understood every aspect of it, you know.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Dominic, what's going on in the racing experts this week?
Man, always our staff keeps us going. Justin Malillo, Jonathan Field, Nick Lewis, and Adam Kuhn. We, appreciate all you guys do for the website. We're going to keep doing our giveaways. Keep following us on Twitter, the Racing Experts. Keep looking for some NASCAR memorabilia. And David, we're actually doing some more giveaways with the Let's Go Racing social media pages. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what we got planned there?
Well, hopefully, you know, one of our sponsors, Whataburgers, has given us some great giveaway items, branded items. And so hopefully we'll be giving away some stuff really soon. And we just appreciate, you know, our listeners listening. They love listening to Jimmy Means' stories and Mike Skinner's and all the guests we had, you know. So we appreciate all our listeners, you know. If it wasn't for them, you know, we don't really have a show, you know what I'm saying? So I appreciate you guys, you know, because I wouldn't know how to do this, you know, and to be able to interview people like Jimmy Means and Jeff Bodine and, you know, all the people we've had on, it's been pretty cool to hear everybody's stories and learn, you know, how they've gotten and how, you know, and their passion for the sport. So it's been a pretty cool deal, pretty neat deal. So I appreciate y'all. Yeah. And Jimmy, thanks for taking the time. I know you're in, you know, back in North Carolina. It's late, and we appreciate you joining us, man. It's pretty cool having you on our podcast.
I appreciate you having me.
Hey, yeah. Absolutely. We got to put the checkered flag on this show. Before we run, make sure to subscribe to Let's Go Racing with David Starr. New episodes out each and every Tuesday on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and YouTube as well. Leave us a 5-star review or don't leave us one at all. We would love to hear from you there. Also on social media, Facebook.com/David Starr Podcast, Twitter @Starr Podcast, and by email, DavidStarPodcast@gmail.com. For Dominic Aragon, David Starr, and Jimmy Means, I'm Tyler Jones saying so long. This has been another edition of Let's Go Racing. We'll see you next week.